Hello everyone! Hello everyone! Today is Saturday the 28th of May 2022 and we are here to share our stitching with you.
Stitching with you!
Yes. Hello and welcome to Sew Me Sarah. I'm Sarah and
Charlotte.
This is Charlotte. Hello Charlotte. Those of you who are new, and I know there are quite a number of you today, won't have met Charlotte before. She comes along to help me, don't you? You don't have to copy everything. Charlotte comes along to help me sometimes, but she hasn't been here for quite a while because she's been at school.
At school!
But today is...
It's Saturday! Saturday!
Today is Saturday and there's no school.
No school!
So Charlotte's going to come and help today.
Okay.
Yes?
Yes!
Okay.
No!
So, since the last time I met you, I wanted to say thank you so much, everyone, for all the birthday Flosstube wishes.
Wishes for Bluey.
It was lovely to read all your very kind comments, and I really appreciate those kind wishes. I also am hoping very much.
This bloke is like about peace.
Let's
together.
Bye. Not bye yet. It's not bye yet. You listen carefully and then you can talk about your things, okay? Listen carefully for a wee minute. So since the last time we met, there hasn't been very much happening here in our house. Charlotte brought us a lurgy home from school and we all had a tummy bug, which really it's not something we want to talk about. But Charlotte has some exciting news. You've been doing fun things, haven't you?
Yeah!
So tell everybody, where did you go on Thursday?
Thursday. We're going to the school trip.
To the school trip, that's right. And where did you go on your school trip?
With us, with the sounders and other schools, College and everybody at the
That's right.
Sienna, Bonnie, Jessie, Pacific, Aspa, Philip, Emma, Miss Bostrava.
That's right. Charlotte went to W5. W5 is an interactive science exhibit really for kids, the who, what, where, when, why idea. And the school were having a school trip. So since COVID, there haven't been any school trips. So it was very exciting for the P1s and P2s, wasn't it?
Yeah!
The P1s and the P2s all headed off to W5 on the big... Pardon you. Whoopsie. They headed off to W5 on the bus with Mrs. Annette and Miss McCoosh and all the boys and girls. And you had a great day. What things did you do at W5?
I went to play for big slide.
Big slide?
And more. And just hold up. How about the next one? And the next one. Last I could come see Mommy and Daddy.
The slide, and then the next one, and the next one, and the next one. You had some snack and some lunch, and then you came home to see Mommy and Daddy. That's right. And what did you get at W5? What did you get?
A book.
A notebook.
A notebook.
Yes.
Yay!
To do some writing in. Isn't that right?
I don't want it.
I know, another time we don't.
I just want to paint.
You just want to paint another day, okay?
No.
And then, so that was Thursday. Thursday was your special trip to W5.
Yeah.
And then Friday, it was beautifully sunny yesterday. It was Friday.
It's Friday.
And
Sports day.
It was sports day at school.
Sports day.
Yeah. Mummy's going to insert a picture so that everybody can see Charlotte running at sports day.
Mummies.
Yeah, we were there to visit, weren't we? All the mummies and daddies came to cheer. And what did we do? We said, go Charlotte, go. Go, Charlotte, go! And you had a great day, and what did you get? No more of that, you. You show it. You have to turn it around to show it. Turn it the other way. This way, look. Show it at the camera like that. And what does it say?
It's a sports star.
Sports star! Yay! Very good. It was a super exciting day for all the boys and girls. There were lots of races. It was actually a really lovely sunny spring day. It was perfect for sports day, not too hot, and plenty of sunshine. And hot dogs, yes. There was a hot dogs treat at the end, wasn't there? Hot dogs treat at the end. So I think that's all of our news. Charlotte had very exciting news. Wasn't it a very good week?
Yes.
Yes, it was a very good week.
Let's say goodbye.
Well, it's not time to say goodbye. We can blow kisses. Everybody likes kisses. But we're not going to say goodbye.
No.
Will we show some stitching?
Yes, bye.
We show the stitching?
Okay.
Okay. So this week it has been busy. We have been dealing with some illness and I have been working a lot. So there's not been just as much stitching that I can show you. But I do have some. And the first is a fully finished object. This is the Mary Will Sal. And this is one of 2 designs by Aya Rosen that Chris is offering for a donation to Dolly's Imagination Library. I stitched it last weekend when we weren't feeling so great and we weren't doing much around the house. It was a lovely quick stitch and you can see that I managed to get it fully finished. I mounted it, I laced it to some white board. I added some fabric covered sticky board. Mounted it on this.
This is mine. Get it back.
Mounted it on this wooden board, which is just from here in the UK. It's available from the Works. It's sort of a raw wooden board with a string hanger on it. So I just dry brushed it with some chalk paint to cover the nakedness of the wood, as it were. And this was just a £1.50 piece of wood, so it worked out perfectly. And you see just right up here in my dresser, that's the little spot where Mary Will is going to sit. Now I changed the pattern slightly because the pattern does have Mary Will full name, Mary and Will on the other side. And I put MW for Mary Will and CXS for Chris Cross Stitch. Okay?
Bye.
That is the full finish of the Mary Will Wedgwood 2-piece. I managed to catch up with the Heartfelt Sal. It's this design from the Fat Quarter Shop. It's their charity stitch along for 2022, raising money for the Make-A-Wish Foundation. And this is actually part 4. I think I might have just said part 3. This is part 4. Charlotte can hold it for you. Yeah, let everybody see. Hold it up close.
Well done.
Yes, like this up here. That's it. Everybody can see it now. This is the finish of part 4, and I'm very happy to be caught up because I think the next part is released next Friday. It's good to be caught up before that comes. I snatched a few moments here and there to keep working on the Fiddlesticks chart of the British stamp. And Charlotte's going to show you. We'll hold it the right way up.
No, Mimi, I can do it.
Yes, you can do it this way up. There.
I can talk myself.
You can talk yourself?
Okay.
What are you going to say?
Say goodbye.
No, we don't say goodbye.
No, goodbye first.
It's the Queen. You tell everybody it's the
This
Queen.
is fine.
You tell everybody it's the Queen.
Okay.
It's Queen Elizabeth. Hold it up nice and high.
I don't know that's a high.
There we go. It's Queen Elizabeth on the British stamp. I have just got some borders to do,
This
which I'm
is
hoping won't take
mine.
too long, and then I would like to put some dates in just to commemorate the Platinum Jubilee on this little piece. So that is progress on that one. So my helper got restless. So I have tried to make a little bit more progress on Heartstring Exemplaries My Necessity. I'm in the penultimate border, and I'm going to tell you that I'm finding it hard. I don't know what it is about this border, the counting, the flow, whichever direction you go, you sort of end up stuck and can't work your way back out of, or I can't work my way back out of. So you can see I haven't even finished the thread that I was working on. So yeah, I find this one tough going, and just with a week of long days and 2 weeks of long days and nights, I really just couldn't concentrate on this one. So this is the one I've found, this is the border I have found the toughest, and funnily enough it's not even the biggest or the most dense of the borders, but hopefully I will finish that off in the next few weeks anyway. In the comments on my last video, Wendy asked what had happened with What Remains and had I finished it, and she was right to ask because you haven't seen it for a little while. I hadn't had time to work on it. So What Remains is this beautiful design by Blackbird Designs, and I am stitching this as part of A Mother's Love Sal on Instagram. There are no dates or deadlines or anything for this Sal. It's just a work on it as you want to Sal, and it's called A Mother's Love because there were a bunch of us who were stitching this in the memory of our mothers. So I did manage to do quite a little bit on this, and I absolutely adore it because, oh, I need a little bit, I need a board to put behind it. Let me see. Sorry. I adore it. I adore working on one thread over two on this 35 count linen. So let's see. I think last time I saw it, last time I showed it to you, sorry, that the big red petals on the flower were done, but the greenery wasn't. So I have finished the green leaves for the flower. I've added the motifs either side of the flower and the wording, What Remains is Love. I continued the inner borders down each side and across the bottom, and was very relieved when they met, as you can imagine. There is just, if you are stitching this, if you're just starting to stitch it, there are some breaks in the pattern of this side border, so just watch the pattern. It breaks here and goes out of sync, as it were, as it does up here once where this bird's tail is coming into the pattern. So it doesn't just flow the way you expect it to after that, so do watch out. But thankfully I had spotted it first and was able to count my way around it, and I managed to do it properly. So that was a relief. So there's a little bit more to do. There's the urn that the flower is in, the peacock, another small bird, and a few motifs on that flower to the side, as well, of course, as finishing the borders, the birds along the bottom, and the sand stitch. So there's still quite a bit to do, but it's not too far from being finished. It is my mum's birthday at the end of June, and it would be very nice, I think, if I could finish this before then or for then, just in her memory. But it doesn't matter if that doesn't happen. Life is taking turns at the moment, and things aren't getting done just in the timing that I had originally hoped. But you never know. I might just be able to pull it together in June and have a nice finish on this one. I love stitching on this chart, really, really love stitching on it. And my last whip to show you is actually a new start. And after my last video, you know that I shared with you that I was gifted Hive Rules by Lisa. And of course, I couldn't wait to start it. So I did make a small start on it, and I haven't got very far because things just became busy. But It's beautiful. The colours are fabulous. I'm stitching this 2/2 on a 25 count Lugana, and this is a Lugana in vintage sand colour, and I just absolutely love it. I know it's the tiniest really of starts, but it's gorgeous. I have it pinned on here at the top because this is quite heavy. There's a lot of, you can't see it there, there's a lot of fabric rolled up there because it's going to be a very long piece, especially on a 25 count, but it's going to be fun to do. So yeah, thank you again, Lisa, for that lovely chart. It's keeping me stitching bees since summertime. That's all of my stitching for this video. So I am going to do a segment on the monochromatic pattern suggestions, as I'd said I would, and I'm going to do that in just a few moments here. I hope you'll stay for that. But if you aren't going to stay for that, then I thought you might like to know who the winners of the Flossiversary giveaway were. You might recall that on the last video I was celebrating my Flosstube 1-year anniversary, and I am going to give away a copy of Cross Stitch for the Earth and Cross Stitch for the Soul by Emma Condon. Each book comes accompanied by a piece of even weave fabric in 28 count, which should allow you to stitch one of the designs from the book on. So thank you all very much for your interest and for your comments, which incorporated many compliments using earth and soul. You'd think I planned it just to get nice compliments, but it worked out very well. Thank you everyone who had fun with the wording. So there were 75 entries who were interested in this book, Cross Stitch for the Soul, and the winner was Colleen Isaac. And there were 74 of you interested in winning Cross Stitch for the Earth, and the winner was Christine Faulkner. Christine and Colleen, if you would like to get in touch with me, you can use the email address down below or contact me by direct message on Instagram. I'm So Me Sarah over there, and just get in touch and let me have your postal address so that I can pop these in the post to you as soon as I can. Thank you all for participating and for being interested. I am delighted that Colleen and Christine are receiving these. They're both viewers who have been with me since the very beginning of the channel, so that's quite nice, especially since it was for the Flossiversary giveaway. So yes, so thank you all again, and congratulations to Colleen and Christine. Please get in touch. I'm back. I thought it was a good idea to have a little helper today. I thought it might occupy her. I think I might have been wrong. Anyway, here we are, and I am coming back to share with you some monochromatic pattern suggestions. Now, if you've been around for the last 5 or 6 videos, you may recall that I was gifted this beautiful fat quarter of fabric by Terry. And I should probably show you the whole fat quarter. And in previous videos, when I showed this, I talked about what the possibilities for stitching on it were. What designs would work well with this fabric for me in the place in my home where I want to use it. And you were all kind enough to provide some suggestions and send me searching the internet, and yes, becoming quite enabled, although I have withheld mostly. And I thought this might be an idea to share some of the suggestions, to collate the suggestions and share them with you, because I know many of you will be in fabric clubs. You may well have a piece of fabric which is in and of itself very beautiful, or in fact almost a statement piece fabric. But sometimes it can be really difficult to decide what to stitch on this particular piece of fabric. So I thought I would collate the suggestions for monochromatic patterns and see what we come up with Few caveats to this section. There are no rights and wrongs. You stitch what you love. It doesn't matter if the person next door doesn't love it. That's all I will say is you need to love it. Otherwise you won't want to work on it. You won't want to hang it in your home. All of that. So, you know, you don't have to just go with what everybody else thinks is right. Trust what you like yourself. Okay? There are no right and wrong answers. All of the suggestions were fantastic. Where you suggested specific patterns by designers, I am showing those. Where you just suggested designers, then I have had a look and I've chosen one or two just to give us something to think about. I have 25 patterns to show all together today, and I am not going to be able to link every single one of them in the list below to provide all the links for all of them. But what I will do is make sure that they're all listed with their designer so that you can, and I will try to link the designer's website if there's a sort of a single place where you can go to, like for example, Modern Folk Embroidery. I will put a link to Jacob's site, and then you can find by searching within that from the titles that I will have listed below. So everything will have its title and designer listed below, but perhaps not necessarily the links on this occasion. But like I say, I will try to link at least to the designer shop. So the final warning that I want to offer you before we get into this is that if you are easily triggered by beautiful patterns into opening your wallet or hitting Apple Pay or all of those things, then I am telling you to turn off now, and I am not accepting any responsibility for any purchases that may hereafter be made. So I am not responsible. I am just sharing beauty with you, okay? So let's have a look at what the options are for monochromatic pieces. Forgive me if I'm looking to some notes on the left. I'm going to insert the pictures of the patterns up here because I don't own them all. And but that means I can't actually see them as I'm talking to you, so I'm trying to look at them on a laptop screen down here, and I have a few notes about them. So forgive me if I'm sort of back and forward, but you'll want to watch the patterns and not necessarily me at this time. Okay. Also, the premise of this is that you have a piece of fabric that is striking in itself, and you don't want the fabric entirely covered by X's. So you want the fabric to still shine through your crosses. So among the ideas and suggestions, we had Quakers, we had geometric designs, samplers, word and text prints, some black work, and even dragons. So let's have a look, shall we? So Quakers were a popular suggestion. And of course I showed a Quaker before when I talked about a few suggestions, and one of those was Modern Folk Embroidery's Kindness and Fortitude. I like this Quaker because I think it has a good balance of design elements and negative space. Not too little, not too much. Some Quakers can be quite dense, even though they're still open motifs, as it were. But this one I think has a nice balance, and I think it would still allow a pretty fabric to show through it. Quaker Gardens by Liz Matthews was also a suggestion. This is one of Liz's newer releases from market this year in March. It's gorgeous, and I think for the very same reasons, you've got designs that are spread out with plenty of background to peep through the stitching. So I think Quaker Gardens would definitely be another great contender. And if you want even more background to show in your Quaker, you could consider Croakworthy, which is an ink circles Quaker pattern. So, and who doesn't love frogs on their Quaker? So you can see from this one that there's a lot more negative space, so your fabric would be showing, be revealed a lot more. So that would be a really good option, is to keep an eye out for the Quakers where the design elements and motifs are more spread apart. So you can see that that is exactly what is happening here in Croakworthy. And imagine a Quaker with frogs. It's great. Of course, ink circles designs were mentioned a number of times by you guys. Nobody pointed me to a specific design, so I went to the website, had a look, and found Croakworthy, but I also found these couple that are not too dense. A lot of the ink circles designs are quite dense, but these two were not too bad, so I thought they would work quite well. First up is the Pepper Tree, which is a geometric design, and you can see that it has the central design, and then it has an outer border, and just the gap between the design and the border would be a great space to show off the fabric. So let the fabric talk for itself. I think that would work really well. So you've got both. You've got a really nice, tight geometric design, but space around that. Because quite often, I think the fashion at the moment seems to be to frame your work quite close, not leaving large amounts of fabric on the edges of your work, but to frame quite tight to the piece. Where this, you could do both. You can frame quite tightly, but there is a sort of a built-in border which will allow the fabric to show. So I think Pepper Tree would work well in that respect. And then this next one, Damask Square, is an example of a beautiful lacy design. It's very intricate and delicate. It's gorgeous, but it has been framed. The model has been framed with a good inch and a half border of fabric showing. So as I said, it's not something that seems to be terribly fashionable at the minute, but I think it works really well for this type of design if you want to show off the fabric that it's on. So the fabric hasn't completely disappeared, and it becomes part of the design, a part of the statement of your piece. So I think that would be a great option, and it's such a pretty, pretty design. Continuing with the idea that some designs create natural negative space around themselves, then this suggestion, which was made for Modern Folk Embroidery's Nordic Heart, is a perfect example of that. So the shape of the heart naturally creates some negative space, particularly at the bottom corners, and that will allow the fabric to be on display. You also, of course, could have more pictorial designs. There was a suggestion that Peppermint Purple's blackwork pieces would work nicely on my fabric, or indeed on one of your fabrics. And I think that yes, it would, if you chose the right one, not one of the ones that are more sort of full coverage blackwork, if there is such a thing. but for example, she has a range of countries, US states, all in outline and then filled in with blackwork. So like this one is Australia. And you can see here how the intricate outline of the country, or continent of Australia, is going to stand out beautifully against fabric and creating again that negative space of a border almost in itself, allowing the fabric to be part of the show as well. Fabric isn't just background in this instance. So I think that would be great. She also has some animals, so you might like to try the cat. The cat silhouette would look fabulous as well. So those are just some options if you prefer black work. Again, creating that space, allowing the fabric to rest. So many of you mentioned the feeling of the fabric, and I agree with you. So when you look at the fabric, it reminds you of something. It gives you feelings of, and in this case, feelings of autumn or sunsets, or Laura suggested fire and she thought of dragons. So yes, and yes again. Go with what your instinct is and the feel of the fabric. If you've got a beautiful purpley blue icy fabric, then something wintry would look fantastic on it, or something mythical would look fantastic on it. So absolutely listen to and feel what your fabric is saying to you. So Laura's suggestion of dragons led me to look at the 2x2 stitch art designs on Etsy, and she has some dragon designs. So have a look at this one. Wouldn't that be very dramatic with in a dark thread on this fabric? Yes, I think so. You have plenty of negative space in the pattern around the very striking central image of the dragon. And then you have the closely stitched border, which would then contain all the vibrancy of the colour of the fabric in the negative space that's around the dragon. There was another dragon pattern that I thought would work really well on a fabric of this kind. Also, it's more of a collage. 2x2 stitch art doesn't really name her patterns, so it's a little bit tricky to talk about them. But I'm referring to this as a dragon collage. You can see there are a number of elements in this, and you could take any one of those elements on its own and stitch a small piece, and all of them would work well, I think, on a dramatic fabric. Thanks for the suggestion of the dragons, Laura. They would definitely be a statement piece, a dramatic impact, if you were to stitch those on this particular fabric. 2x2 stitch art also have some sort of nature silhouettes that will work really well on a dramatic piece of fabric. So I showed you before sampler 106, here it is again. And I like this because I think that my fabric looks like a sunset, and I can just imagine swallows dipping and diving in the sunset, and I think that would be particularly striking if you were to stitch something like that. And again, whatever colours your statement piece of fabric is, I'm sure there's a way to make something like this work with, I mean, a beautiful black thread against something to suggest dusk, or it would be just absolutely gorgeous. Unfortunately, the fat quarter is too small for this design because it's a whopper. It's like 400 and something stitches square. And even if you just leave off that side portion, it's still pretty big, and you still have the 400 stitches in the length of the piece. So unfortunately, the fat quarter is too small unless I stitch 1/1, and that is not going to happen for a piece of that size. The idea of tree silhouettes, nature silhouettes, reminded me of a beautiful stitch that I have seen Anna at Stitch Roadies working on, and it is a Renato Parolin stitch called Bosco de Bengtsson, which I think means Bengtsson Woods or Forest, I think, in Italian, but don't quote me on that. This is a gorgeous, gorgeous design. It's a very long tree silhouette. It might, however, be a little bit wintry for my particular fabric, but if you have a silvery grey lavender or a dark fabric, like a navy blue or something that would suggest nighttime winter, oh, it would be absolutely stunning. Now, the unfortunate thing is that this design appears to be out of print. I can't find it anywhere. But if you have it in your stash, or you did come across it, it would certainly be worth consideration for a monochromatic piece. Many of you noted that a text or words design would be very apt for such a fabric, and I happen to agree wholeheartedly. So there were some really lovely suggestions, so I'm going to share those with you. There were a number of Hello from Liz Matthews designs mentioned, and I'm glad I'm not having to decide between them because I would find it very difficult. They are absolutely beautiful. So first up, the suggestion was to stitch Old Friends, and the saying here, of course, is such a sweet sentiment. Your heart and my heart are very, very old friends. Is just adorable. So who wouldn't want to stitch that? And yes, in a very dark, contrasting floss on your fabric, it would be really stand out. It would be gorgeous. So the other one that would work equally well is Loved by You. So how sweet it is to be loved by you. Simple and perfect. Excuse the background noise. I have someone else working at the other end of the table. I have no helper today, so adult helper. So it's now or never. Anyway, Gather Here is another great design by Hello from Liz Matthews. I have said before, because I'm actually already stitching this on a silver grey piece of fabric with a teal thread, that this looks like, to me, looks like a woodcut design, you know, like the design you would get from a woodcut or a lino cut or something. I absolutely adore it and agree that it would be magnificent on a statement piece of fabric. So that's a suggestion for those of you who are wondering what to do with those fabric club pieces. So still on text designs, Indiana Hopper suggested that I have a look at Stitchpiration on Etsy and see what her designs were like. And yes, she has lots of funky text designs that would be great for this purpose. So I had a little look and just I'm going to show you two. One is called Eat, Sleep, Stitch, Repeat, and it's here, and the other is Carpe Diem. So when I had a look at these at first, I thought maybe the colourful backgrounds were stitched, but I think that's actually a like fabric paint or fabric dyed effect. So of course your piece of fabric is already hand dyed, you've already paid for it through a club, so you would just add the striking lettering on there, and that would be a lot of fun. And those would be actually really, I think, reasonably quick stitches, and there's also something very pleasurable in a quick stitch. So those were good suggestions, thank you, because I hadn't come across that designer before. The next suggestion takes us back to sort of sampler realms, and this suggestion was made by Doxy Love Stitcher, and it made me chuckle because she said, have you seen and have you considered Green on Green by Rosewood Manor? Green on green but not in green. And I chuckled to myself because we've already been through my floss choices and my floss options, and you know that I'm heading towards a dark coppery red colour. It's a DMC 3777, and so this was funny because the sampler is very good. The sampler is called Green on Green, but she said but not in green. I'm not going to stitch it in green. So this is a sampler I had never seen before, so thank you so much for the suggestion, because this is an exquisite design. Exquisite. It has everything that you would love about Quaker and alphabets all in one place. It is not too dense, but also not sparse. The alphabet is beautifully rounded, which allows for negative space and plenty of fabric to show through. And the Quaker designs are nicely spaced, not too far apart, not too much negative space. But yes, this would be a perfect sampler in the Quaker tradition for a statement fabric as well. So thank you so much. I had never seen it before, and I'm so glad to know about it now. Another idea was to look at Linen and Threads, who are now Fox and Rabbit, and to have a look at their mystery sals. So I know, because I had looked before, that there were a number of mystery sals from previous years on the Linen and Threads site, but the Linen and Threads site has now closed as Brendan and Karen have decided not to run it anymore, and they've moved over to Fox and Rabbit. And there's only one of the sals on Fox and Rabbit, and that is the current year. So I can't find the previous years, which I was going to look at to be able to share with you. But thank you for the suggestion anyway, and I will show this year's. So this year's sal is a mystery sal. It is still current and running, therefore there's only part of the year revealed so far, but it looks like this at the moment. And I think from what I see there, and it's called Changing Seasons, I should have said that. But I think from what we see there, you can see there's already spring is already on it. So I'm imagining perhaps that around that centre you're going to have summer, autumn and winter as well. and then some kind of fill-in on that larger outer border. It looks like it is a design that would leave plenty of fabric showing through again, and yes, would be another perfect contender for one of your statement pieces on a very special piece of fabric. So thank you again for that suggestion. Of course, I wasn't going to get through a monochromatic suggestion without someone or several of you suggesting that I have a look at Long Dog samplers. So I did. I went and I had a look at Long Dog samplers, and they are amazing. In terms of monochromatic designs, there are some fabulous, fabulous charts available there. What I would say is that the majority of them were too dense for me, for my taste. Not for my taste in general, but for my taste on this kind of a fabric where we're wanting to let the fabric be revealed. So I felt that stitching a lot of the long dogs on it would cover too much of the fabrics. But I did find a few designs that were a little bit less dense. And of those, these were two that I liked. So this one is called High and Dry. Like I said, I think there's a good balance here. There's plenty of design and plenty of fabric showing at the same time. And then this one is called Happy Ever After. So this Happy Ever After is a gorgeous design. I love the sentiment, I love the life and family and roots, I love all those words. It does have areas of quite dense stitching, so you are going to lose more of your background fabric. So that is something to take into consideration, is how much are you going to lose of the fabric and how much is still going to show through. I think you could get a balance with this one on the right piece of fabric. It will be stunning. Well, it'll be stunning on any piece of fabric because it's a great design, but I think it will be. But I think it will work well on a multicolored, more dramatic fabric too. Laurie Nicholas alerted me to the fact that Modern Folk Embroidery's Fruits of Plenty Sal can be stitched monochromatically. I hadn't realised that. I hadn't realised there was a monochromatic version. And essentially, I think it is a version of the pattern where you don't do the Assisi stitch, where you reverse the Assisi stitch. That is in the more popular version of the pattern. So thank you for letting me know that, Laurie. I didn't know, and one day I would really love to stitch that piece. One day. My one day list is getting longer all the time. So Laurie, thank you so much for letting me know that that was an option, and it certainly would be for this piece of fabric, although I'm just not prepared to commit to something that big at this time, especially when I am still only in the April month of the 2020 Sal piece that I'm stitching from Modern Folk Embroidery. But again, for lots of you out there, this would be a fantastic suggestion for your fabric. So thank you, Laurie. Of course, there are several other modern folk embroidery pieces that I love the idea of for this fabric. One of those I've shown you before is the Fraktur Love sampler. I was inspired when I saw Ilonka's version on her Flosstube, which is Stitch Ilonka. Go watch if you haven't already. And Ilonka stitched just the top half of this chart, not the alphabet, just the birds, and it looked beautiful, and I thought it would be a really good option for a fabric such as Funfair. Carolyn Mitchell suggested another Fraktur by Modern Folk Embroidery, this time the Fraktur Hex Cushion, and have a look at this beauty. I think this is one of the most elegant and delicate symmetrical designs I've seen, and I would definitely love to stitch this one day, and yes, I think it would look great. It's not too dense. There are quite a lot of open spaces even within the geometrics of this, and I think it would be gorgeous. So thank you for that suggestion also, Carolyn. And as a very last suggestion, it's another modern folk embroidery piece, but it's a little bit smaller than everything else that we've looked at today. This one is called the Peacock Tree, and I think it would be very sweet, especially if you have leftovers. Perhaps you've already used your fabric on a sampler or something else and you have a reasonable size piece left over. Then you might want to stitch something a little bit smaller, and I think the Peacock Tree would be a great option for that. Basically, folks, there are many options all over the stitching world that you can use for monochromatic designs on a dramatic statement piece fabric. These were just some of the ones that I loved and that you have suggested. I hope I have managed to pick up all of them. I tried really hard to go back through the comments and make sure I was catching everyone's suggestions. So thank you so much for that. I, of course, have to make my decision about what I'm actually going to stitch. And I have done that. And I have decided that it's going to be in the bedroom, and I am going to stitch a Fraktur Love sampler, just the birds on it. So I am going to totally copy Ilonka and just stitch the birds on this piece of fabric in 3777. And I am really looking forward to seeing how that comes out. I think that common sense has to reign, because I do need to stitch something that I have a chance of finishing. I have so many big projects on the go and so many more that I want to do, that I didn't want this to get lost and never actually started or finished. So I think that's a manageable size project, and I would like to start it in August if I can. So that is my plan. I've got June is coming up, and then July. So my plans for June and July. June will be catching up really and trying to make some headway and some finishes, because my Sweet 16 board is full and doesn't really allow for any more starts. So I need to try to push some things towards a finish, and also just to feel like I'm making progress. July, I would like to be Jolly July. I don't know if I'm going to be able to enter into that with as much spirit as I had hoped, but we'll see when the time comes. So I would like to stitch Christmas in July, funnily enough. And also keeping up with my sals at the same time. And then that would bring me to August, and hopefully to be able to use Terry's beautiful gift and start stitching the Fraktur Love sampler. So thank you so much to all of you who have made suggestions and tried to encourage me along the way, my journey of choosing a design for this fabric. I hope that I have been able to share those back and given some of you some ideas for what to do with the fabric that's already sitting in your stash, or a piece of fabric that you have seen but haven't purchased because you wouldn't know what to stitch on it. So I hope that maybe there are some ideas in there, or at least some ideas of how to think through whether something would work on your fabric. And remember, nobody else has to like it, only you have to like it. So if you like it, if you think it would be great, then go for it and enjoy every stitch. It's looking busy here again as the next few weeks go by, but we do have a long weekend next weekend for the Platinum Jubilee celebrations, which I'm looking forward to. And I hope that we will be able to maybe get a walk along the beach, and maybe even some family time as well with our parents. But I need to organise that. The last couple of weeks have been so crazy that I haven't even had time to think or plan that. So I need to get on it probably after this video. Today is a catch-up day, and please note that you guys have been caught up before my housework, before my washing and ironing. I made sure that I got a floss tube in. Thank you for bearing with the background noise. I don't have an adult helper today, so Charlotte is here and she is restless as always. So that is why I normally video when she's not around, but it was now or never, and I really wanted it to be now. So Thank you for sticking with me. I hope that it's been helpful and fun today. I hope that you'll be back, and I will see you in a couple of weeks. So stay well and stitch happy. Do you want to come and say goodbye?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, blockers.
Okay.
Let's blockers
Okay.
together.
Bye everyone.
Bye everyone.